Okay, data structures in SAP. There are two types, client-specific and cross-client data, which is used for customizing. A client is, of course, in simple terms, in simple interpretation, is your server, which has uh, data for business, for the modules, and for the integration. Characterized by the fact that it has its own environment, master data, and user data. And this data is known as client specific. Client here means server. So if we go through these transactions that we just see, this is a table MARA, which is related to materials, MARA, display. General material data, okay. Now over here, we have client, which again is localized to this instance, which is, we can see the client is 100. Now, this can be your development client, your production client, whatever. But this table is local to this environment. TWARF, let's see what this table actually shows us. SEC1, SEC4 will also see this. Programs are cross-client. Okay, now this is table of variables and selection criteria. Now, selection criteria, which basically can be used for search terms, search boxes, okay? And this is basically made in ABAP. Over here, the fields are basically customized, okay? Over here, we have low or high value external format. This can be used for third-party search terms as well. SCC1, SCC4, let's check that also. SCC1, which is locked. SCC4. Okay, now over here we have client references and details about what a client is basically used for. This is for customizing. The first one is for reference. The other client 200 is for demo purposes, and it has the default currency is USD. Okay, and of course the other details that actually come in. Automatic recording of changes that we do in configuration are basically stored in the repository in the transport request that we create. Now, repos RC. What is repos RC? Let's see that. That is another table. I see 11 repos RC. Report source code. We can actually go into extras. Sorry, environment, data browser, and table contents. Over here, we can see the source code of the programs through this transaction. Let's execute it. And we have these many programs right now in this client. Okay. Double click any of this and we get the details when it was made. Okay. The timestamp is also given. The data that is supported with this is also given. So this is where all your source code is basically residing in this repository. USR02, USR02. This is logon data. Okay. How a client, a user actually logs on at what time, the timestamps. Basically, you'll see that data browser, table contents, and these are the people who are basically logging onto this client. Okay. So these are the users that have been assigned to this client. Repo, the repository, the central store for all the development objects and programs. This is also cross-client. The programs are cross-client, okay, contains all dictionary objects and programs. Repository objects are grouped together to form packages. Now, packages basically, it contains all the programs, the logic, the code, the syntax, and the data as well. And that is then packaged for another client. By client, I again mean the server. Okay. Packages are containers for semantically linked development objects. So what is semantically? Semantically means logically linked. It can be linked through integration or linked through logical connection relationships like tables and programs and data. Okay. And programs or tables are part of this. Now, this is how client is defined in SAP. There are repository objects like module configurations and custom programs are basically residing because these are cross-client. Over here, we have application data, which is like orders, invoices, purchase orders. Okay, these are residing in on a client level. Then we have client-specific customizing like company codes, plants, the organizational units. And then we have authorizations for the user. And authorizations can be limited over here, and it could be restricted over here or unrestricted, whatever the case or requirement may be. Now, if we talk about programming, ABAP is basically uh, at the application level, where all the work processes are residing. The database, of course, it provides the data, and the process is basically worked on over here before it is presented to the presentation layer. All applications are in SAP are developed using ABAP. It is event driven. We will see what is event driven when events are triggered. Okay. During the code, there are blocks that those which are considered events that will see how we can actually program that. The workbench that we'll be using will be ABAP editor, data dictionary, screen painter, menu painters. And the two codes that we'll be using quite a lot, SE11, SE38, SE80 will also be used. Okay, that is for data dictionary. And if we repos are basically cross-client, if we have to look at these repos, of course, we have already seen that through the repo table. Okay. $temp is a local package, local object which only resides in the client and it is not transported. Okay. And if we go to SE80, let's go to SE80. SE80 will see what we can see, and SE93 will see what the package is. Okay. And packages are created by the basis team, which is the architecture team, which takes care of the architecture, the authorizations, and the memory, the storage packaging for every module, for every client. Okay, they actually balance that. Okay, Object Navigator drop-down menu, Object Navigator, and over here we'll have package. In package, let's see what do we have. We have only two packages over here, do not transport, and this is XML reader. Let's view it. I guess it's not populated right now. There are dictionary objects in that table types. Double click. Okay. Now, basically, again, this is XML for integrations. If you look at the structure. Now, this is the structure that is basically defining this package. What data elements are being used? So in a package, we have objects. And in objects, we have table types, structures, data elements. And in data elements, of course, we basically club and collect all of the data types that will be used for input and output. The libraries that are being used, that is also given over here. Okay. SE93, SE93, VF03, display. This is billing documents from the sales order. This is the program. Okay. And what is the package that we are using over here? Let's click the program. Now over here we have include programs. Now include programs basically use reusable subroutine packs and events that can be pulled in the program, and that we'll see how we can use this. Now let's get into the logic code SE38. Let me just pull out this code. ZT76 September data objects, data structures, sorry, data structures, create structures, the converse executable program. Okay. I've already explained all this. Save. And over here, we'll have local object, which is temporary. Local object is your package, local package. Parameter P10 type C. Now, this is basically we are defining a data type as character type, and its name is P name. P over here notifies or signifies parameter. P name, right? The input was right justified, right P name, right end. Menu bar, utilities, settings, front end, editor. Okay. Utilities, settings, there is settings, front end, editor. Front end, editor. Source code based editor, text based editor, debugging pattern. Source code petty printer. Uppercase, debugging pattern. Okay. Check. Activate. Data process, direct processing. P name. Now this is character. Let's say repo. The input was repo and end, because I put in a slash in every line in the output. That's why it was producing the next line. Okay. The next program, let's deactivate this one. And how do I deactivate that? Control plus this one. Okay. And star is for the line deactivation. Now, over here, if you look at it, it's a little bit changed. Start of selection. Now, this is the event-driven programming. Start of selection means that whenever a program is loaded, okay, at that very start, this event will be triggered. The input was right justified. At selection screen output, at the output, it will write P name. And in the next line, end. Now, start of selection and selection screen output, these are two events. At selection screen output, this is another event, this is another event. Okay. Direct processing, repo, The input was, it's not actually showing up. Why? At selection screen output. The input was rise justified, start of selection. Okay, now over here, now you have to actually experiment with the code. Start of selection. Great. Now events can be in any order. The input was repo end. How it is producing? Because it is starting this event. If I deselect this, deactivate this, let me activate it again. Rec processing. So it is not actually identifying at selection screen output. Okay, start of selection, it is triggering this event and it is then writing it. Okay. End of chapter 3. And let's move on to the next lecture, chapter 4. Which was it? Okay. ABAP syntax. An ABAP program consists of individual statements. Each statement begins with a keyword. Now, keyword is basically, this is a keyword in blue. Anything in blue is a keyword and it ends with a period. The first ABAP word is known as a keyword. The other words are either operands, operators, or addition to keywords. Okay, like type table of, type standard table of, like that. ABAP words must be separated by at least one space. There can be more than one statement in a program line, and statement may extend over several program lines. And it is not code sensitive. These programs are always divided into two parts, global declaration and procedural part. This is the declaration part, and this is the procedure, basically. Okay, this is how it will actually execute it. Global declaration part, declarative statements can be used to make definitions. The declarative part is followed by procedural part. Okay. To maintain clarity of a program, it is advisable to make this program structure transparent by using comment lines. Now, comments can be given over here, like this one. Okay, when we actually use inverted commas, okay, this is event selection trigger. Okay, this is output. Okay, when we actually use keywords like parameters or write, it basically we are actually defining the declarative part, and when we are writing it, it is the procedural part. Okay. In principle, ABAP program statements work only with the data of the same program, but we can also pull in from other subroutines that we'll see by lecture number 14. External data such as user inputs on screens or data from database must always be transported to data local to the program in order to be processed by ABAP statements. The physical units with which ABAP statements work at runtime are called internal program data objects, like subroutines are basically triggered at runtime. So anything that you define as data objects, if you're defining a variable within a subroutine, it will not recognize it because that is runtime. You have to actually define at the declarative segment. The contents of a data object occupy memory space. ABAP statement access these contents by addressing the name of the data object. Data object has a set of technical attributes like character, numerical, integer, packaged, floating, things like that. Technical attributes of data object are data type, field length, number of decimal places, and so on. So other data types, character, numeric data, date, time, packaged, floating, integer, hexadecimal string, hexadecimal string. These we can actually use for integration, for programs, for calculations. Data types, there are five predefined non-numeric. Non-numeric are character, numeric character string, date, time, hexadecimal. Numeric are integer, floating point, and packaged. Okay. Field length for data type, date, floating point integer, and timestamp is fixed field length. So you don't have to actually give the size. For date, floating integer, and time. The field length determines the number of bytes it will occupy. In types, character, numerical, hexadecimal package, the length is not part of the type definition. So it is not by default. Instead, you define it when you declare the data. So because package basically occupies a greater memory space, so you have to limit it by using the size. You have to mention that. Data type package is particularly useful for exact calculations and business context. When you define an object with type packaged, you also specify a number of decimal places. Now let's basically go into SE93. Save. Okay. So I've already told you, you can make a comment using these operands and control. Okay. Now, data keyword actually creates a data object. It's a keyword. Now, there are types. It creates a data type, predefined type and user-defined type. For example, data, first name, 10, type character, data, first name, 10, type numerical. First name is VAUSNET, and we can actually use a debugger over here using these keys. Okay, let's do this. And it has actually logged out. Let me re-log in. Okay. Over here, type C, type N, but over here, this is user type. Types, user 10, type C. Now, because we're using a keyword, not data, it is types, we can actually make custom-made data objects, and then we can redefine it. Let me just pull in the server again. Let me re-log in. Eight data structures. New. Data F name type C, F name type N, VAUSNET, Shift Control plus F12 for debugger. Okay, we'll activate this. Already declared. Okay, we'll have to deactivate one line. Activate, deactivate. Direct processing, VAUSNET. Let's deactivate this one. Over here, it actually produces numerals of the text. Okay. We can also use this syntax as well for custom made syntax so that we don't have to actually reuse and redefine the declarative objects. SE11 database table. Environment. Uh, 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 okay, table name, MATT, table contents, and this will actually show what material number and what is the material that we have. Okay, using data browser, go back SE11, MATT, display. Now, if you look at the data description, data elements, the data element, what is it? What is the data types? Character, language, character, and this is client, which is local to the server. Okay. Now, this is our types, and let's see. 38. P, mutable program. Case type I, material number, description, no length. We have not. Okay. We'll deactivate this one. Amount. Okay. 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 Check amount and phone number. Okay. We'll also print amount too. And these are spaces that we are giving. Okay. And types. This is again declarative. TY user, F name, middle name is type TY user we've already defined. So we can actually define structures as well. Structures will have fields that we'll see in the next lectures. Okay. Direct processing. It's producing these data results. Double click, debugger, direct processing. Okay. Double click amount, quantity, phone number, 1234, F name. This is how, and F5. Press F5 and it will actually produce the output. Okay. Okay. I hope this is clear. N is non-numeric. System used to store data like phone number. Use arithmetic data type. What is arithmetic data type? Like package. We've already seen the debugger as well, and this is the other program. Again, it's the same, almost the same, okay, with some changes, of course, but this is what was our today's lecture. Okay. I hope you got the idea of the data type.